Hey, life is great, I can't complain. Life is great, I can't complain.
Welcome everybody to episode 6, Minister's Kid Podcast. I'm here with my boy Andrew Summitt. Do you have a middle name? I think we've talked about this.
Jonathan and David.
Really?
I got 2.
Did not know that, bro. You're a brother, man. Black people have multiple middle names. So Andrew, David, Jonathan.
No. Andrew, Jonathan, David.
Andrew, John, AJD Summitt.
Yep.
Here with us on episode 6 of the Minister's Kid Podcast. Just talking to different ministers' kids and their experiences in life and being in the ministry and what the pressures and different things that they deal with in life. So I guess the first question is, let's tell people about yourself. Where are you from? Where are your parents from? And all that good stuff.
Yeah, so obviously, Andrew, Jonathan, David Summitt. My parents are from Arkansas, and I was born there. Stayed there for 2 years. Then we moved to Oklahoma, around the Pryor area, for 5 years. Then when I was 7, we moved back to Arkansas for 2 years. And then we came to Texas and moved around a ton. So we moved around a lot. And the story with my middle names is my oldest brother, Josh, who's about 12 years older than me, and my mom got in an argument about whose initials I would get. So my mom is ADS, and my older brother is JAS. So I got the A, I got the J, and I got the D.
Yeah, that's how my name is too. So my whole name's Philip Godfrey St. Anthony Robb. Philip is like, I think, my great-grandfather. Godfrey is my grandfather, and Anthony is my dad's middle name, and then Rob. So it's like everyone wanted a piece of that, so they got it. That's cool, man. I did not know you moved around that much. What was that like?
It did help shape me. Like I had to learn how to make new friends really easily.
Yeah.
So my people skills had to
improve.
They were worked on a lot whenever I was younger.
Yeah. So were y'all always in church?
Oh yeah. So my dad got in church when he was 17. That's actually a funny story I'll go over real quick.
Yeah.
But he, when you're a 17-year-old guy, you're all about the women.
Yeah.
And this girl that was Pentecostal invited him to church. And, he told her he would go, not ever thinking that he was going to go. And I think her mom called my grandma and asked if William or if Willie was going to come to church that night. And my dad was like, nah, let's not do that. And my grandma was like, we may be a lot of things, but one thing we're not is liars. And so she made him go to church.
His guns.
He walked into church with hair down to his shoulders and a Farrah Fawcett t-shirt on. and it was history then.
Yeah.
He felt the presence of God, and he kept going.
That's awesome.
And, he got on fire for God.
So that girl isn't your mom, is it?
No. She's actually not in church anymore. But
wow.
Yeah, but it's crazy how God works through people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely.
And then my mom actually, I didn't figure this out until I was older because I knew she got in church when she was 15. But she actually has like a pretty big heritage in the UPC and stuff. The Andersons in Arkansas. Okay. She's related to them. But yeah, she got in church when she was 15. Her mom was sick. We talk about standards and we talk about some people don't want to do certain things. My mom's attitude was always like, I want to sing on the platform and this is what they say I got to do. Like, let's do this. Right. That's what I remember from her.
Yeah. So what was it like being at those, I say fortunately, I guess, it's not too much different, or maybe it is, I don't know, going to different churches like that. And I know you never went up north, because we know that church up north is different from church down south. Yeah. But even still, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Texas, I'm sure you experience a lot of different church types and church settings.
Definitely. I can't relate to the people that were won to God and this is their pastor, and like this is all they've ever known. This church is all they've ever known because I mean, I've been to so many different churches. Like one thing my parents always said was a church will take on the personality of their pastor.
Yep.
And it's super true. And that's why leadership is so important, is because whenever your pastor is pushing something and people there, he has people there that he has, won to God, and they have a desire to catch his vision, they will fall in line, and they'll take his personality. If he loves people, they'll watch him and they'll watch how he treats new people. And if he has a love for people, that whole church is going to have a love for people.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So like, I guess the different churches, you always saw that in those different churches, that the different people took on, you went to this church, even though it might be across town, even that, growing up in Garland. Well, first my church was in Dallas, and then we moved to Garland. Well, there's another church across town, and, same, we love each other. There's no beef or nothing like that, but just different church took on the personality of their pastor, where we took on the personality of ours. And so you could tell that there's a difference, but, we still all believe the same thing. So that's
definitely
pretty neat, man. Where's some of the, like, I guess you can say the most unique places maybe that y'all have lived in? I wouldn't say coolest, but maybe the most unique, that was like, this is definitely different than other places that I've been.
I'll say whenever I was younger, my parents had a home missions work in Coweta, Oklahoma. And that was it was like a 2-car garage that they converted into this room in our house.
Yeah.
And so we had church in our house for a long time. That was pretty unique. I mean, we had like the church sign, I don't know how to, but anyway, the sign was on our fence.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I remember, man, we, some funny stories. Me and my brother, we didn't really have that self-awareness yet because we were so young, and I was 7 years old. And so one time, I mean, the restroom was like right outside the sanctuary, our 2-car garage. I remember one time I heard people like laughing because I was singing at the top of my lungs in the bathroom while church was going on.
While church was going. So who did the music whenever, was it your mom?
Did.
She's musically.
Yeah. She kind of hasn't, she kind of dropped the piano after a little while, but she knew a few songs, and like, I know them really well now just because those were the songs we sang.
Yeah. Got the same ones on repeat over and over.
Yeah.
So at what point were your parents doing that ministry? Were they already doing it before you were born, or was it something that happened after you were born? And do you remember that moment, or was it, like I said, was it even before you were born? When did they get it?
Yeah, I remember when we took the home missions work, because we went to the church in Pryor, Oklahoma. That's like my first memories, because I was 2 when we moved to Oklahoma. And then I was about 6 years old whenever we did the home missions work. And it was like, I remember the night, like we went to the camp meeting, and my parents like were driving us around, and they said, "How do y'all feel about being pastor's kids?" And we were like, "Oh yeah," because the pastor's kid, man, they're like, the top dogs.
Yeah.
We were like, "Oh yeah, we want to be pastor's kids."
And then you got a taste of it.
Yeah. Well, it was like we had 2 families, So I mean, and there wasn't. I mean, the other kids were 15 and 16.
Yeah.
So they were like way older than us.
Right.
So it wasn't
so
that much.
Little youth group and the little kids ministry y'all had.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So I guess describe when I don't know if your dad ever told you about this. I'm sure he has. When, I think we've talked about it before at school, when he felt the call, and then talk about when you felt the call into ministry. For those of y'all that don't know, me and Andrew went to Bible college together. We made it out 4 years. of sticking through it and going through everything that we went through. But now we're here. We're doing ministry in the way that God has us doing it. But describe or talk about your dad's call when he felt it, and then talk about yours as well.
So yeah, I remember, man, so many ministers telling me about their calls and how, brother Burks telling us about, he told his grandma he was called to preach, and his grandma said, we'll pray harder, and maybe you won't have to. Maybe God will change his mind, But my dad kind of had the same thing where he, I believe so. He can correct it in the comments when he sees this if I'm wrong. But he told his pastor, and I think his pastor kind of put the brakes and was like, you need to be sure if you really want to go into this lifestyle, because, you're under a magnifying glass. Like, if you're really going to get up and start telling people how they need to live their lives, they're probably going to watch you and make sure you're living your life right too.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he just talks about a burden, and just telling his pastor, that he felt the call to preach, and how, eventually his pastor said, okay, or how it happened for him is his pastor said, well, hold off. And then I guess a few months later, maybe a couple of years later, his pastor said, all right, you're preaching tonight. And it was like, okay, the pressure's on. And I think my dad said he preached for almost 2 hours because he had bottled up so much.
Yeah.
That he was like ready to share, Man, my personal call, man, I can just remember being 13 or 14 years old in the altar, man, just not knowing what God was dealing with me about, but just knowing that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I think I've known for a long time, I had dreams whenever I was a kid, and I always wrote it off like, oh, it's because my dad's a preacher, but I had dreams of just being in church, being behind a pulpit and preaching and stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just my whole life. But yeah, it's just those moments in the altar. I remember, and my youth pastor, I remember I went to church camp one year, and, you go to church camp and you get on fire, and then you come home and it simmers down, you let it die down.
Oh yeah.
I remember anticipating church camp one year and just praying one night, just saying, God, like, give me something this year. Like, I want something that's going to last this year, because so many years I've just taken what you've given me and wasted it, and felt like I've taken it for granted. And I said, but God, just give me something that'll last.
Right.
My youth pastor had actually moved on like a couple of years before that, but he was going to be a dean at the youth camp that year, and I was in his dorm. And I remember he told me, he said, hey, let me talk to you. I need to talk to you sometime this week. And immediately I was like, that's it. Like, that's what I need. That's what I wanted from God. Like, he's going to tell me what I wanted from God, what I asked God about. And I remember, I had to hide my wristband because campers weren't allowed on the golf carts. But he called me, and I went over, and we rode around on the golf cart, and we talked, and he said, so what do you want to do when you grow up? Like, what do you want to do with your life? And I told him, I said, I want to be a preacher. And he just started talking to me about, have I thought about Bible college? What have I done, to prepare for this? And he just started everything that I ever worried about, every insecurity that I had. He just started to address it. He said, people will tell you, don't go to Bible college because, you need to go and get something that you're going to be able to make money with.
Yeah.
And, he said, that's like saying, let me have a backup plan in case the will of God doesn't work for my life. And I found, he said, when you take care of God's business, he'll take care of yours.
Right.
And I held on to those words that he told me that day. And I mean, it helped me all 4 years of Bible college.
Yeah.
It's helping me today. But it really is true. If you take care of God's business, he'll take care of yours.
Yeah. And some people really don't get that. Like, I know I'm kind of nonchalant about it whenever I say it and I talk about it, but I'm the same way with you. I'm just like, man, I've realized I'm only 28, but in my short life that is so true. That if you just take care of God's business, he'll take care of you. Like if you do what you need to do, he's going to take care of you. It's whenever you start worrying in those hard times and stuff like that, you start veering off path or whatever that he has for you, that you find yourself in a pickle and you're just like, man, what happened? And then God's like, well, you're gonna let me take the reins again, or you're gonna take it back. So that's awesome that you said that. And kind of going off of that, what has been the lowest point or a time where you just thought, man, maybe this isn't for me, or maybe not necessarily ministry low point, but a low point in your life period where it really took like God and your parents helping you out to get through it and being a minister? Because I think people have this notion that, like, even you, whenever you're saying, oh yeah, we want to be pastors' kids, be top dogs and stuff, but you don't realize that comes with, even whether it's pastors' kids, Sunday school directors' kids, if you're in any type of ministry. That's why this is the Minister's Kid podcast, because when you're in any type of ministry, something's going to happen to you that's not normal to other families that they don't have to deal with, or other kids that they don't have to deal with. So talk about one of those moments, go into as much detail as you feel comfortable as, and how are you able to get pulled out of it?
Yeah, definitely. So, you talk about the pastor's kids, you do have kind of a microscope on you, because the Bible's very clear about, if you're going to be a minister, you better rule your own house well before you start telling the church what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're a reflection of your parents,
right,
and their ability. But yeah, I think the end of my freshman year of Bible college, and then the entirety of my sophomore year was probably
sophomore year was
I heard Zathan talking about this. Zathan's freshman year was bad because a lot of stuff was happening with him. It was the end of my freshman and my sophomore year. Yes. And I really thought about it one day, and I thought, it's because all my life, I was under my parents, I was under their covering, mm-hmm. And then now I'm becoming a man, and I went to Bible college, and they're still covering me in prayer. They never stop praying for me, but it comes a point where you got to have, it's time, to have your own relationship and not rely on your parents' relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I felt it. Felt it too bad. I think I just went into like a deep depression at the end of my freshman year. Mm-hmm. And I can remember, coming out of that, and then my sophomore year. But I remember it was Easter Sunday, my freshman year. And I mean, my parents knew that I was going through it, because I would go home on the weekends and stuff. But my parents knew I was going through it. And my mom just they were like, why don't you go to our church isn't having church tonight. Like, why don't you go over here with us tonight? Like, we want to visit over here. And I said, no, I got some plans with some friends up back at the school, and they were like, no, I think you should come with us. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm going up to the school, And, but anyway, so my mom she said, it's getting to the point, she said, you can consider yourself on your own for school if you don't come with us tonight. And I was like, ugh. I was like, fine. I was like, all right, if the finances are going to stop, I'll go.
Yeah.
And what else? Oh yeah, my mom started crying in the front seat of the car, and she said, you've never been this cold to us before, And I think it was just because I was going through so much. And I can remember going to that Easter service and sitting in the back with my parents, and I found out at Bible college, just praying these just sobering prayers, not getting into it, not emotional, not, crying, but just like listen, God, here's how it is. Here's what I need. Like, I need this now, you know? And I prayed one of those prayers. I said, God, I know, because we got into the service and it started bumping. It was Karina's church.
Yeah.
You know, they were worshiping from the get-go. Nobody had to pump and prime them. They were, you know, it took off. And I was sitting back there, you know, just standing, clapping my hands, you know. And I remember praying, God, I know I need to get into this, but I just don't know how right now.
Yeah.
And like right after I prayed that prayer, one of the ministers in the church came over and, like, you know, basically I had to bend down because he was so short.
It's not he was so short. You're just too tall,
Yeah,
bro.
I'm just too tall. But I said, or he said, you're not foreign to this atmosphere. He said, you need to meet God halfway and do what you know to do. And then he's going to do what he knows to do. He said, I'm going to go, he's like, I'm going to go up there, but, and I'll be back and you do what you need to do. And I was like, okay, God.
Yeah.
Started praying. He came back, had some of their young guys got around me and started praying for me. And I mean, it was one of those, you know, just monumental times in my life where I'll never forget that time in the altar with God. And I mean, they prayed for me for a little while, prophesied over me. Told me I needed to go up to the altar, you know. So I went up to the altar and started worshiping, you know, and that's how God pulled me out of that.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, then sophomore year happened and I took that night guard job. And man, I envy nobody that has to work at night because, you know, you got chemicals in your brain telling you to go to sleep when it's dark outside.
Right.
Melatonin. It's not fun fighting that every night. But man, I guess I just felt lonely.
Right.
Through that time. And I just, again, you know, it was just a time where I was going through a ton of stuff. And I mean, I think people close to me were backsliding back home, you know, and just going through that, being like, you know, what good am I up here at Bible college when all this stuff is going on at home?
Yep.
You know, and just feeling everything full force. And I know my parents were like covering me in prayer. I remember going home and just bawling to my parents, telling them everything that was going on, telling them, you know, I didn't want to go back, you know, and just mom and dad feeling for me and saying, you know, it's okay. Like, you can go back, you know, this is a part of it. This is a part of life. This is a part of ministry. You're going to feel lonely at times. You're going to feel like you don't have the answers, but you know, you just got to keep going.
Right.
And I think out of that time birthed some of my most just heartfelt sermons that I've written. It was that time that those came about.
Yeah. So talk about a time where, you know, people don't realize that some do it intentionally, some do it unintentionally. But whether your dad was the pastor of a home missions or a daughter work church, or he's just a minister at the church, and somebody or someone hurt him, but then that hurt bled over into the house. And I'm not saying that he was like any type of bad way, but you could just like, you could feel it, man. My dad and my mom, they're hurting. This couple said this about him or tried to do this to him, whether it was intentional or unintentional. But they don't realize, people don't really realize, unless they're really evil in their heart, that it's not just affecting brother William Summitt, it's affecting Andrew and the other kids and the wife. So talk about a time when that happened and how you all as a family, like, did y'all have, I talked to some and they said that they had like a prayer meeting and that overcame it that night. And some say that they just kind of rode the storm and they were just kind of waited it out and everything went away and things went back to normal. So what kind of experience was that like for you?
Yeah, there's been many times, you know, when we did that home missions church, just leaving that, was really hard. And my dad pastored in Texas. When we moved to Texas, he took a church, and just different things that were going on, different, one man, didn't like somebody else. And, as a pastor, you have to deal with that.
Yep.
And I think my parents were really, really good about not talking to us about ministry issues. We really didn't know about some things until way later. And I'm sure there's things that we'll never find out about.
Right.
But yeah, you can feel it in the house. You can feel it that mom and dad are going through things, and that things aren't right. But I remember when they had to leave that second church that they had, it was really tough. It was a small town. My parents couldn't get jobs.
Yeah.
I think very few people were paying their tithe.
Yeah.
It was like they went into a bunch of debt before they decided, hey, we're gonna have to go. We're gonna have to do something because we're drowning over here. And I remember my parents were like, hey, we're gonna be staying with your uncle for a while. And we were like, oh yeah, this is great. At that point, we didn't know anything bad was going on. We were just like, oh, this is amazing. We get to hang out with our cousins every day. This is going to be a party all the time, But yeah, then when we got older, we had other instances, church hurt is very real, There's times whenever, you feel like, somebody in the church did you wrong or whatever, and how do you deal with that, and how do you respond? And it's a lot easier to read the Bible and to say, hey, this is how Jesus says we're supposed to react, without ever considering the pain that Jesus went through and still reacted like that, And my parents, I've learned so much from them, just in that, just going through that stuff and how you react. And you're like, well, I feel like this guy's a minister over here, and I feel like he hurt our family,
Right.
And you're like, well, and mom and dad sit you down and they're like, well, that's God's responsibility. We're going to choose to forgive. We're going to choose to move on, and we're going to choose to still love them. I remember Tragedy of a Wounded Spirit. What was that?
I think it's Shatwell. Yes.
Preach that message. My God, you get to the point where, in forgiveness, the stages of forgiveness, where you literally pray, God, don't hold them accountable for what they did to me. And it's like, if you can get that spirit of Christ to be able to do that, that's another level.
Oh yeah, definitely. So kind of wrapping up some things here. I talked to Zathan about this. Like, I didn't know you were a minister's kid, so you told me.
Oh yeah.
How do you, because there is a negative stigma, and that's kind of a part of what I'm trying to do here, is like show that, hey, these are real people, and don't let people because there's bad people in every type of department. Now, I'm not going to get into too much. You have bad people who are police. Not all police are bad.
Right.
You have bad doctors. Not all doctors are bad. You have bad this, not all. So how do you, knowing that there is a stigma, try to change that narrative? Do you make an effort, or are you just, it seems like you're just you, and you don't make it like put your chest out. Yeah, I'm the son of a minister. You should say, hey, yeah. I'm Andrew. Oh, by the way, my dad used to pastor, and he's a preacher and everything. So how do you try to avoid being thrown in that boat?
So what comes to mind when you say that, and when you actually point that out, is Morgan Freeman, when he was asked about how we end racism. And he said, stop talking about it. Stop differentiating between you're a white man and you're a black man, and just, we're men. And I think that's how you do it. I'm a minister's kid, but I'm also a Christian kid.
Right.
And I went to church with other Christian kids. And I never said, hey, if they found out dad was a preacher, cool. But like, I never thought I was you know, other than the, hey, cool, let's be pastor's kids, I never thought that made me special. I thought being in church made me special.
Yeah.
And I didn't, you know, you don't ever try to go and advertise, you know, how would you mention that in conversation without it being awkward? Like, hey, I'm a preacher's kid, you know?
Oh, I've had some conversations where they're like, yeah, my name is so-and-so. The first thing they do is introduce their name. And yeah, my dad's a pastor here. And my mom is this person. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You know?
See, I never got along with those people either. Except for when I went to Bible college and, you know, was exposed to more of them and then realized, oh, you're cool people. You just, you know, you name dropped.
You're just name dropping at this point. But that's awesome, man. Like I said, yeah, you're doing a good job. You know, like I said, you're just a cool guy. And so I appreciate our friendship and everything. Just some of the last couple questions I want to ask is, what are you currently, are you reading still, or audio booking, or what are you currently reading?
So audiobooks, definitely. I like to listen to them at work. My dad just recommended one. And I mean, I did like the first half of it in a day, listening to it on an audiobook.
Yeah.
Letting it play. It's Fasting Secrets Revealed.
Okay.
I'm just diving into fasting. And then I'm about to start one that my pastor mentioned called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
I've seen that one. I'm a physical reader because I like to highlight myself. Yeah. I can audiobook, but I just like, if it's something that informational, I like to highlight things. So that's just my preference. But
it helps you when you want to use it in a sermon and stuff.
Yeah. So other than the time you were singing in the shower and church was going on, what's one of the funniest moments that's happened, maybe while your dad was preaching, or just, let's go with that. What's one of the funniest moments that's happened that you can remember while your dad was preaching?
Man, I can't think of one when my dad was preaching. But yeah, I've had some gaffes.
All right, what about you?
Okay. I mean, I think that's the beauty of Bible college is, you know, you're all young ministers and you're all, you know, novices and you all have gaffes, you know, sooner or later. You know, there's that time we were on Corral tour and Destiny was about to go down to pray for somebody. You know, you're like so intent. You're like, really, you see somebody, the emotions hit you. You're like, okay, I'm about to go pray for this person and they're going to get their breakthrough. And when she gets to the bottom step, boom, flat on her face. Right in the middle
she got back up so quick.
Yeah.
I thought she fell out in the spirit. Destiny, we love you. I'm going to try to get an interview with Destiny for the music side of it. But I almost forgot about that, dude. That is funny. Yeah, man. Yeah. Hey.
My biggest one though was probably on Corral tour again. We had the intro songs, you know. And for those of you that don't know, it's just, you know, you go up, you intro a song, and then you sing the song. Well, my song was I think it was You Are Good or something. It's the one you took because you have to take it.
Arise. William Murphy. Yeah.
You know, you're talking about the goodness of God. So I did this thing because, you know, on Corral tour, we're going to a bunch of different churches and I had the same intro for this song. And I was talking about Job and how he must have had an idea or an understanding of the goodness of God to be able to be faithful through everything that he went through.
Yeah.
And then we went to Tupelo Children's Mansion and I had to intro that song. And so I didn't think about it until later, but I went in there and told a bunch of orphans and people that had lost family members or just were estranged from their family about how Job lost all of his kids. And so, you know, they didn't let me live that one down.
That's funny, dude. All right, last one is who are 5 people either currently right now or just over your time in life who have influenced you and shaped you into the man you are, whether they're mentors or just people you've seen from afar, you maybe never even talked to them, but just 5 people, preachers, regular, just everyday people, doesn't matter, just 5 people in general who have shaped you into being the man you are.
Yeah, definitely. Number 1 and 2 have to be mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Just everything that they taught me, just through example, through, telling it to me until it got through my thick skull.
Yeah.
And I think probably the most important lesson they ever taught was sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
And just, giving in whatever state you're in. If you see a need, that's your job as a minister to
Right.
fulfill that need as to the best of your ability, or pray for them.
Mm-hmm.
Second one is Spencer Records, Brother Spencer Records. He was my youth pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was going to Bible college during the time where I was a young person. So I think that really helped him just teach us, because like the class basic doctrine,
Yeah.
I mean, I felt like he taught us all of that. He taught us from Adam to Revelation, from Genesis to Revelation, and just like pulled out why that matters, why
Right.
it matters that God told all those stories in the Bible. And it was like, and other than that, passion. He taught me passion, when he got behind the pulpit. And I think it's really important for young people to see somebody that is, in their 20s, they're a young man, and when the whole world says, oh, you go to college, you party, you drink, you do all this stuff, to see somebody that stayed in church and that has a passion for the things of God, that's not, the old man that your pastor might be, or the bishop or whatever.
Right.
To see somebody close to your generation that does that, I think that's super important.
Mm-hmm. 2 more.
Number 4 is probably Joni Colberth. She is the pastor's daughter over at Splendora, and their music director.
Mm-hmm.
And she is the one who taught me how to get a tenor part, taught me how to sing.
She's the one that got you. She's the one that got you exalted.
Yeah, she prepped me for TBC, definitely. She not mean, but she just knew how to let you know that what you're doing is not right. Here's what you need to be doing. And I think because of her, I can work with, different, because at TBC, all these music students, I think you're like that.
Yeah.
Exactly, like, hey, man, that's wrong. This is how you need to do it.
Somewhat.
Let's correct this real quick, and we all understand you're not being mean. You're just like, hey, for the sake of time, we got to get this corrected real quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to work with so many different personalities
mm-hmm.
in music. And she really helped me prepare for all that. Number 5 would probably be my current, my pastor, Brother David Whitaker, and his wife, Sister Sally Whitaker. I mean, they are such down-to-earth people. I mean, they have an awesome testimony just of how they came out of the world, how he was an atheist. But God saw fit for him to be a pastor, and just, he's just pouring into me right now. And I mean, I've said it over and over to people that ask me, but if anybody has the gift of teaching, it's Brother David Whitaker.
Yeah.
I mean, I love to just sit and listen to him teach, listen to him preach, talk,
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, hey, dude, I appreciate your time. I got Easter practice coming up, so I'm gonna head on over to do that and try to get that thing straightened out. Appreciate your time, man. Hope your chicken turns out good.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having me, bro.
Yeah, dude, I'll shoot you a text or something later, man. All right.
Hey, life is great, I can't complain. Life is great, I can't complain.